This is the all-new Land Rover Discovery Sport. No, really, it is.
The Discovery Sport is 5 years old, so that means it's now time for a midlife facelift. But apart from a few minor visual tweaks, it looks exactly the same as the old one. So why on earth are we even bothering to review it?
Well, that's because it's not your usual midlife facelift. In effect, this is a brand new car. But before I tell you the whole story, make sure you subscribe to the channel, switch on those notifications, and leave your comments below.
Let's wrap up what's new. So there's a new grille, new bumpers front and rear, new headlights with fancy scrolling indicators on some cars, and new LED taillights. But that's not the big news. Essentially, Land Rover has peeled off the old Discovery Sport's body and plonked it onto the new Range Rover Evoque's platform. That means the Discovery Sport now comes with mild hybrid engines, but there's an even bigger surprise inside.
Now, all that stuff to do with the platform you can't see. What you can see is this new interior. Now, it's pretty unusual for a manufacturer to rip out the entire dashboard for a midlife update, but that's exactly what Land Rover has done. Now, I always had a problem with the previous Discovery Sports dashboard. The quality really didn't reflect the price Land Rover was charging, but now that has totally changed. Lots of lovely soft touch materials everywhere. Nothing creaks, nothing rattles. It feels very premium, very well screwed together indeed. Now, there's a big tech upgrade as well. Every car now gets this 10-inch touchscreen in the centre. If you go for an SE model and above, you get digital dials in front of you. This entire lower part of the console is changed as well. Now, the old Discovery Sport had the little rotary knob that rose up from the centre console, but here it's the trigger style gear lever, which is a lot easier to use, I admit. Now, here is totally new as well. There's dials here taken from the Range Rover, the old Range Rover, which adds another premium air, but they have dual functions. So the one on the left, if you press that button, it controls the fan speed, and the one on the right controls the all-terrain response system. Pretty neat, isn't it? Now, if you opt for the trailer assist option, you can actually control the car with these knobs. Now, I'm not kidding you. You actually can. You get a screen, you get a video screen of what's going on at the back displayed there, and you control where the car goes with these knobs. It's pretty clever. Now, talking about other tech, HSE models get this clear sight rear view mirror, which we first saw on the Range Rover Evoque, which essentially there's a camera on top of the roof and you could just flick a button and you get a video screen there, which is really good if you're carrying loads of stuff in the back and the view out is blocked. And you can also have ground view technology. Now, again, we saw this on the Evoque. There's 3 forward-facing cameras which are scanning the road in front of you and beneath, and so you can see what is going on beneath you. It's really good if you're off-roading or if you're trying to park in Chelsea.
There are many different flavours of Discovery Sport. The basic car gets fabric seats, heated front seats, LED headlights, the 10-inch touchscreen and a rear camera, but it's only available with the entry-level diesel engine. S comes with a choice of engines, adds electric seats and sat-nav, while this SE gets the digital dials, an electric tailgate, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and blind spot assist. HSE tops the range with the clear sight rearview mirror and a posh Meridian sound system. And if you want a sportier look, S, SE and HSE come with an R-dynamic derivative.
Now, back here, and unsurprisingly, very little has changed, so it's still very practical. So you've got ISOFIX points in both outer seats. The front passenger seat, in actual fact, has ISOFIX as well, so you can fit 3 child seats in this car. We've got an optional panoramic sunroof in this car, so it's £1,100. It's pretty pricey, but it does make it very airy back here. Now, down here, we've got some USB charging ports. You've got these airline style pockets, and you can just about fit 3 people along here. It's a bit of a tight squeeze, but you can just about do it. Now, Land Rover describes the Discovery Sport as a 5+2, and that is pretty key really, because yes, there are 2 seats back here, and it's quite easy to get into. You just slide this forwards like that. And if you've got a degree in gymnastics, you can actually slide into the back there, and they are pretty small, but they are primarily designed for children. Let's just slide that back. And of course, these seats do slide backwards and forwards to add more space in the back if you want to, or give your middle row passengers more legroom. Speaking of legroom, I mean, look, there is just tons of it in the seat in its default position, and despite that panoramic sunroof, there is still plenty of headroom.
Those two tiny seats pop out of the boot floor, but they only come as standard on S models and above. The entry-level car only gets 5 seats as standard, with it being a £1,000 option for them. With them up, there's not much space. Drop them down by pulling the straps, and they fold flat. Fold all the seats down and there's loads of space, more than most of its 5-seat only rivals. All the engines are 2 litres with 148, 178 and 237 brake horsepower diesels, and there are 197 and 247 brake horsepower petrols. Only the 148 brake horsepower diesel gets a manual gearbox, all the others come with 8-speed auto, and there's even a plug-in hybrid coming along later. Apart from the D150 front-wheel drive manual, all cars get the mild hybrid tech. And what I mean by that is that there's an engine-mounted belt-integrated starter generator to harvest energy normally lost during deacceleration and stores it in an underfloor battery.
Now, it sounds complicated, but it really isn't. Essentially, it means that when you're coasting, for example up to a set of traffic lights, the engine will shut off and you'll run on electric power. And when you accelerate away from the traffic lights, you'll get a little bit of electrical assistance.
Land Rover says the mild hybrid system gives up to 6% better fuel economy, and when cruising at a steady speed, the car switches from 4-wheel drive to 2-wheel drive to save fuel. It re-engages again in 500 milliseconds. Despite this though, you'll only really be getting around 37 mpg from the D180 and around 30 for the petrols.
This is the D180, so it's the 2-litre diesel with 178 brake horsepower and 430 newton meters of torque. And this engine has never been a particularly good engine in the Jaguar Land Rover lineup, but with the chassis improvements and the fact they've put a bit of extra sound deadening in this car, it doesn't sound quite as rough as it did before. And especially with that mild hybrid technology, when you're pulling away from junctions, it doesn't sound quite as gruff as it used to. The only thing that really lets this engine down is the 8-speed automatic gearbox. It's perfectly smooth, but it doesn't change gears quite as quickly as the automatic gearbox you find in the Mercedes GLC, for example. Now, you may not be able to see that new platform, but you sure as hell can feel it, because this car feels so much nicer to drive than the old one. Firstly, the ride, it's a lot more plush. It goes around corners, well, there's more body roll than there was before, but I don't mean that in a bad way, because there's not so much body roll that you find in a Volvo XC60. But it's a nice kind of body roll. It just makes the car feel a bit more soft, a bit more plush. And it's so much quieter in here. Honestly, it feels so much more premium to drive than this car, but it hasn't become like a wallowy old Hector. It still is pretty fun to drive, and that's largely thanks to this fantastic driving position. You can get really low down in the car, get the steering wheel right up in your chest, which I personally quite like. And the steering is nice and accurate, it's quick to respond, nicely weighted as well. And the whole thing just adds up to a really pleasant car to drive.
Of course, being a Land Rover, the Discovery Sport is also geared up for going off-road. It has Land Rover's Terrain Response 2 system that can automatically detect a change in road surface, or you can switch between a number of modes yourself. It also has a massive 600mm wading depth. Whether on-road or off-road, the Discovery Sport is a lovely car to drive. With prices ranging from £31,000 to over £49,000, it isn't cheap. Most rivals can offer larger 3-litre diesel engines for the prices Land Rover is charging for its 2-litre only Discovery Sport. But no rival can offer the 7-seat practicality nor the off-road capability. And with it being better to drive than ever before, the Discovery Sport is a very tempting SUV. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you watch my Volvo XC60 video and our SUVs playlist. Make sure you press the Carbuyer logo to subscribe to the channel and leave your comments below.